In this video, I'm going to be explaining 5 reasons why you should not use a public defender for a domestic violence criminal case. My name is Veronica. I am a criminal defense attorney here in California, and I help people who have been arrested put their criminal cases behind them so that they can enjoy their lives and their freedom. And again, in this video, we are going to be going through 5 reasons why you should not use the public defender for a domestic violence case. And I'll even go so far as to say, especially if it's a first-time domestic violence case. So let's get started. Number 5 is that you will not get a public defender until you are actually in court and charges are filed against you. And you may think, well, Veronica, so what? Who cares? I don't need one until I go to court, right? I mean, there's nothing to do between now and my first court date. If you're thinking that, that is a very common misconception, but it's incorrect. So when you get arrested, and this is particularly true for domestic violence cases, when you get arrested, the police charge you with whatever they're going to charge you with. Commonly, it's a PC 273.5A in California, which is felony level domestic violence. But if you bond out, you have court maybe a few weeks, maybe a month or two later. There's this period of time where after the police arrest you, but before your court date, the prosecution is going to be looking at this case and deciding, do we file more serious charges? Unlikely for domestic violence unless there's a bad injury or something. Less serious charges, maybe a misdemeanor case, or do we dismiss the case altogether? Now, they're looking at this by themselves, right? If you don't do anything, they're just going to be talking to the police officer, looking at the police report, and they'll have no input from you. If you have no criminal record, they'll see that, but that will be the only good thing that they hear about you. And if you do have a criminal record, then they're only seeing completely bad things about you, right? And you know, if you got arrested, whatever's in the police report is not going to be good for you. The police want to justify the arrest. So you need an attorney before court to contact the prosecution and explain your side of the story. If the victim is on your side, you want to get that victim statement over to the DA, to the prosecution. This is the only way to do it, to have an attorney do it for you, to get all those good things about you. When you think, hey, but I'm a good person. I'm working, I am going to school, I overcame a bunch of obstacles in my life to get to this point where I am. Or maybe you have a lot to lose and you think, I'm going to lose my license to practice law or whatever it may be if I have this on my record, or these job opportunities that I have I'm going to lose, or immigration consequences. That's a huge one. I've had clients who are dreamers, they're DACA, and if you get convicted of domestic violence with DACA, you are going to lose that status, but the prosecution may not know that. They may see that you are not documented, but they are not necessarily going to see, okay, but you've applied for DACA, you're trying to become a citizen here. They need to know all of those things, right? Because what you want out of those options, more serious charges, less serious charges, or dismissing the case, you want them to dismiss it, right? You want to get this whole thing done before court. But if you wait and just use whichever public defender they happen to give you that day, then you're going to miss that chance. By the time you show up at court, it's going to be too late. All right, now number 4 is that many times the public defenders will refuse to speak to the alleged victim, even if the alleged victim is on your side. So if you have a domestic violence charge and the victim comes to court and says, hey, look, I wasn't abused, or I lied that night, or the cops just came out and they arrested him out of nowhere, I didn't want them to do that. It's important for the DA to know that, and it's important for your attorney to know that. So if the public defender refuses to speak to the alleged victim, and they give all kinds of reasons, truly the reason is because they're too busy and it takes time. But if they're not speaking to the alleged victim, they're not going to know any of that, and they won't be able to use it then to help your case. It's also really problematic because at the first court date, the DA, the prosecutor, if they file charges against you, they're always going to ask for a restraining order that prohibits you from contacting the alleged victim. And yeah, if you're thinking that that's a problem because you live together, you have kids, the thing is that the victim won't get to share their side of the story with the judge, try to prevent this restraining order from happening, unless they actually speak to your attorney. In general, the DA doesn't do anything to help the alleged victim speak to the judge. So I, as a defense attorney, will make sure I have the victim's statement. I'll tell the judge, Your Honor, the victim would like to be heard. She doesn't want a protective order issued. And then make sure that the victim knows, okay, I can come in front of the bench right now and talk to the judge. Make sure that they know all of that, because otherwise it's going to be really, really hard to do it on your own. So again, when you're thinking, this is a huge problem for me, we live together, we have kids together, this is why it's important not to use the public defender, right? Number 3, the public, and this applies to every criminal case, but the public defender's goal is to get you to take a deal and get rid of you. It's not because they are bad people. It's not because they're bad attorneys. Many of them are very good attorneys. It's because they have so many cases that if they fought as hard as most private criminal defense attorneys will fight for you, if they did that for every single person, they would have hundreds of people that have court every day instead of, in the, let's say, 20s to 50s. So their job, part of what their boss wants them to do, part of what they have to do, is try to get people to take deals. In fact, many times they will try to get their clients to take the very first deal that they get on the very first court date, because, these things can drag out for months. They could have the file open, maybe they have to file motions. Well, if they can get you to just take a deal, close the file, case done, case closed, they've done a good job. And the public defender isn't there their job isn't to get you the best possible deal. It's not to get you the best possible outcome. The reason that they are there, the reason why there is a free attorney for you, is that because it's required by the Constitution. So it's just a checkbox that the government checks. That's why they're there, not necessarily to help you. Now, reason number 2 is that generally, this isn't always, but generally, you will never get a copy of the police report. You'll never see any of the other evidence against you if you have a public defender. The reason is that there are laws that require your attorney, if they're going to give you a copy of the police report, to go through and redact, like black out with a marker or on the computer, all of the personal information about the victim in the case and any other personal identifying information. And this takes time. You'd think, well, it should be pretty easy, but the problem is how these police reports are written. It can be throughout a 60-page document. So you're going through and you want to make sure that you don't inadvertently leave a driver's license number or something, because it's actually a misdemeanor to do so. So private criminal defense attorneys, okay, we know our clients want this police report, and we actually need our clients to look at the police report so that they can tell us their side of the story for the case, right? But the public defender, they simply don't have time to do this, to scan these things, make copies, black things out, make sure that they didn't miss anything. They're not set up to do that. Again, they're just checking a box for you. Number 1 is that usually the really good things about you are not going to be presented to the judge or to the DA. So part of my job as a criminal defense attorney is to show the good things about my client to the judge and the DA, to cast my client in the best possible light, to make them seem special, unique, whether they are or not, to take all the good things that I have about them and show them to the judge and DA and say, hey, look, this is somebody who's worthy of a second chance, or sometimes third, fourth, fifth chance. This person has all these good things going for them, and that's why this person shouldn't have a conviction on their record for domestic violence or, whatever it may be. Now, the way that I get all those good things is I have a whole system set up. I have clients fill out a form. We use that, review it, sometimes get additional input from them, create a letter that describes all the good things about them, that really describes them in the best possible light, collect letters of recommendation for them. We have this whole system set up, and the public defenders, they don't. They simply don't have it set up. I've never heard of any public defender's office that has it set up. Now, will they talk to you for, a minute or two and ask you, okay, where do you work? Did you go to school? Tell me about your family. Sure. Yeah. Okay. They will do that. But that's not the same as having this extensive history of you as a person and going through and figuring out, okay, what can we really emphasize and highlight here? And do you think that you're going to get the best deal, best outcome, the dismissal that maybe the guy next to you at court doesn't get if your attorney doesn't have this information or isn't ready to present it to the judge or DA? You're not going to. Anyway, I hope that you found this video helpful. If you do have a criminal case or domestic violence case in California, feel free to give me a call. You can find my number down below, and you can also click on the link there to book a consultation with me.